Before we dive in, remember, facing the dark side of ourselves isn't easy. But if this video resonates with you, consider liking and subscribing. That way, we continue together on this journey of mirrors and truths no one wants to hear, but everyone needs. Have you ever felt it? That sharp pang of resentment? That quiet, simmering rage aimed at the very person you love most? It's a feeling we're told to hide, a contradiction we desperately try to make sense of. We are taught that love is pure, that it's all-encompassing. But what if that's a lie? What if the very essence of love is not a single, beautiful thing, but a fierce and volatile mix of passion and destruction? This is Freud's dark secret. It's not just an idea, it's a key to unlocking the true nature of your relationships, and a key to understanding a hidden part of yourself. We're going to explore why love is always mixed with hate, and in the process, reveal a truth about human connection that hurts at first, but ultimately frees you. So don't run from this feeling. Lean into it, because what you are about to understand could finally make the ache in your relationships echo with meaning. Now that we've glimpsed the paradox of love and hate, it's time to confront the source. For Freud, this wasn't just a feeling, it was a fundamental law of human existence. He saw us as a battlefield for two primal, opposing forces, constantly at war within us. He called them Eros and Thanatos. Eros is the life instinct. It's the force that compels us to connect, to seek pleasure, to unify, to create. Think of it as the drive toward synthesis. It's the yearning that whispers, "I want to merge with you. I want to build a life with you." This isn't just about sexual desire. It's the instinct that fuels creativity, the impulse to form families, the intellectual pursuit of knowledge, and the silent, unspoken longing for meaning. Eros is the artist putting paint to canvas, the parent nurturing a child, the scientist piecing together a discovery. It's the very essence of expansion and belonging. But for every force that pushes us together, Freud saw an equal and opposite force pushing us apart. He called it Thanatos, the death instinct. Now, this is a deeply misunderstood concept. It's not simply a desire to die. It's the drive to return to an inorganic state, to disconnect, to find peace in nothingness, in stasis. It's the instinct for separation and deconstruction. It's the quiet pull toward solitude, the compulsion to break things down, the desire to end a conversation or a connection when it becomes too complex or too painful. It's the force that whispers, "I want to be alone. I want to be free from you." But notice this, Eros and Thanatos are not just abstract instincts hidden in textbooks. You can feel them at war every time you hesitate between reaching for someone's hand and pulling away. Every moment you crave intimacy, but also crave the safety of your own walls. It's in the argument that follows a kiss, in the silence that follows passion. These forces don't live in theory. They breathe in the fractures of our daily lives. And this is why Freud's vision is so unsettling. He forces us to admit that love is never pure, never untouched by its opposite. What we call affection always carries the shadow of resistance. What we call closeness always risks suffocation. To deny Thanatos is to deny half of what makes love real. To deny Eros is to miss the reason we wake up longing for connection in the first place. Here's the part that holds the dark secret. And this is where most people get Freud wrong. He didn't believe these forces operated independently. He saw them as inseparable, constantly entangled in every single act we perform. Every expression of eros contains a fragment of thanatos. To build a new life, a part of the old must be destroyed. To love someone, you must tear down the walls of your own protective solitude. Think of it like a tree. Eros is the upward growth, the yearning for sunlight, the blossoming leaves. But to achieve that growth, its roots, thanatos, must silently and relentlessly break apart the soil, consuming what is old to make space for what is new. The same impulse that builds a relationship is the same impulse that can tear it apart when a relationship fails to meet our deepest needs for connection or for separation. The painful truth is that this constant push and pull, this silent war between the drive to connect and the drive to disconnect, is what fuels the ache in our relationships. It's why we can feel so deeply for someone and yet in the same breath be so utterly frustrated with them. Once you see this struggle, you start to understand that the hate you feel isn't a flaw in your love. It's an unavoidable feature of it. But if love and hate are so entangled, where does that hatred actually come from? And why is it so often aimed at the very person we love? If love and hate are two sides of the same coin, then the question remains, why do we so often flip that coin at the people we love most? The answer is a painful but essential truth, because they hold up a mirror to the parts of ourselves we desperately try to hide. We don't enter a relationship as a blank slate. We bring with us a silent set of expectations, a deep-seated longing for someone to fix our unhealed wounds. We project onto our partner an ideal, a fantasy of the perfect partner, the one who will fill our empty spaces, make us whole, and finally solve the loneliness we haven't been able to face alone. But no human being can carry that burden. They are not our saviors. They are simply people. And when they inevitably fall short of our fantasy, when they fail to be the perfect reflection of our idealized needs, we feel a profound sense of frustration. That frustration is the birthplace of resentment, the raw material for the silent rage that follows. But Freud's insight goes much deeper. He argued that the hate we feel for our loved ones is often a displaced hatred for ourselves. It's an unconscious psychological defense mechanism called projection. It's our brain's way of protecting the ego from painful self-confrontation. We take the parts of our own identity we despise, our insecurities, our weaknesses, our deepest flaws, and we subconsciously transfer them onto the person we love. Instead of confronting our own shadow, we externalize it. We make it their problem. We'd rather deal with the problem out there than admit it's in here. And this is the paradox. The closer someone gets to us, the more clearly they reflect the very truths we spend our lives avoiding. Intimacy doesn't just dissolve distance, it strips away disguises. Love is not a soft blanket over our wounds, it is a light that exposes them. The more we open ourselves, the less room we have to hide. That's why the ones we love can wound us in ways strangers never could. They don't just see our smiles and achievements, they see the fractures, the doubts, the inconsistencies. They press against the places we keep most fragile, not because they want to hurt us, but because real closeness makes it unavoidable. And when that mirror becomes too clear, too honest, hate often rises as the desperate shield for a self that cannot bear to be seen so naked. Think about the small things that trigger you, that intense irritation you feel when your partner is messy. It might not be about the clutter. It could be a reflection of your own hidden, unacknowledged chaos, the chaos you're terrified to face within yourself. The frustration over their passivity. It could be a way of not dealing with your own fear of confrontation and lack of initiative. The anger at their supposed selfishness might be your own inability to be assertive and ask for what you need. You are, in essence, becoming angry at the mirror. And the tragedy is that the person you're lashing out at is the one who loves you most. This is the very essence of the dark side of the self. The more we project, the more we distort the view of our partner, turning them into a symbol of our own self-loathing. It's a painful recognition that the love we crave also brings us face to face with the parts of ourselves we try to bury. The person who brings you the most light is also the person who reveals your deepest shadows. It's the point where the wound begins to open, because in the pursuit of love, you are forced to confront your unhealed past and your unacknowledged flaws. This is where the initial fantasy of the one collapses and the real work begins. We often hate the people we love, not because of who they are, but because of what they force us to see within ourselves. The wound is the gap between the idealized person we love and the reality of them, a gap that reveals our own hidden insecurities. This psychological defense is the reason why the most intimate connections are also the most volatile. They are the battlegrounds where the war between eros and thanatos is fought most fiercely. But here's the most unsettling truth of all, and this leads us to the heart of this entire discussion. True love isn't just a feeling of connection, it's a process of ego dissolution, a voluntary death of the self as you know it, and that can feel like the ultimate form of betrayal.
We've established that the hate we project onto our loved ones is often a displaced hatred for ourselves, a fierce defense against confronting our own unhealed shadows. But what is this confrontation really about? It's about a process that feels like a betrayal, but is in fact a silent promise. It is the death of the ego. The ego, in a psychological sense, is the image we have of ourselves. It's the collection of our beliefs, our defenses, our sense of control and stability. The ego loves to be right, loves to be safe, and it despises change. When we are truly open to love, we invite another person into our carefully constructed reality. We invite a witness. And the honest presence of a witness is a direct threat to the ego's illusions. This is why a simple disagreement can escalate into a full-blown war, and why a partner's honest feedback can feel like a personal attack. It's not the comment that's hurting you, it's the threat to your fragile self-concept. Think about the fantasy we hold, that love is a state of perpetual harmony, a perfect union. But what happens when your partner shows you a part of yourself you don't want to see? What happens when their needs don't align with your deepest desires? The ego will instinctively fight back. It will find fault in them, turn the blame outwards, and cling to the comfortable illusion of its own perfection. That fight, that defensive hatred, is the ego in its death throes, kicking and screaming to survive. It's a refusal to accept the reality that you are not perfect, that you are not in total control, and that true connection demands a radical surrender. This is where the wound begins to ache with a new kind of pain. This is not the pain of a lover's betrayal, but the pain of a psychological death. The love you share is forcing you to let go of the idealized self you've carried since childhood. It demands that you shed the armor you wear and reveal the vulnerable, messy, flawed human beneath. This process is terrifying, and our mind's natural response is to see the source of the pain as the enemy. The wound is where the fantasy dies, and the truth is born. And that truth hurts. It hurts because it feels like you're losing yourself. And yet this is the crucible where love either collapses or transforms. Most people retreat at this threshold, mistaking the ache for proof that the relationship is broken, when in truth it is the self that is breaking. What dies here is not your capacity to love, but the false image of who you thought you had to be in order to be loved. This is why the deepest intimacy always carries the flavor of danger. It threatens the identities we've clung to for survival. Identities built on defense, on masks, on fragile narratives of control. To stay in love is to allow those identities to burn away, to endure the fire without running. The wound opens not to destroy you, but to strip away what was never real. But you're not losing yourself. You're shedding a self that was never truly you. The ego's greatest fear is losing control. And love, in its highest form, is the ultimate surrender of control. It demands vulnerability. It demands a willingness to be seen in all your imperfections without the need for a mask. The hate you feel for your partner in these moments isn't really hate. It's the raw, unfiltered terror of confronting your own inner voids, your own lack, your own deepest need for connection. It's the fight against your own liberation. And this is the most profound revelation. The love that can survive the death of the ego is a love that is no longer mixed with hate. It's a love built on brutal honesty and radical acceptance, not just of the other person, but of yourself. It's a love that has survived the fire. The hate you once felt becomes a signpost, a beacon showing you exactly where the deeper work needs to be done. It's an invitation to stop running from yourself. This is the truth that heals. We've explored the battle within, the psychological defenses we use, and the painful process of ego dissolution. But how does this translate into practical wisdom for our modern lives? How can we apply these timeless truths to the modern void of disconnect?
After walking through the battlefield of love and hate, what remains is not just theory, it's a question of survival in the modern void. We've journeyed through the battle between Eros and Thanatos, confronted the pain of projection, and faced the terror of ego dissolution. But what is the point of this brutal self-reflection? In a world that promises instant happiness and easy solutions, why should we choose to sit with such difficult truths? Because this is precisely the wisdom required to navigate the modern void. We've journeyed through the battle between Eros and Thanatos, confronted the pain of projection, and faced the terror of ego dissolution. But what is the point of this brutal self-reflection? In a world that promises instant happiness and easy solutions, why should we choose to sit with such difficult truths? Because this is precisely the wisdom required to navigate the modern void. Our contemporary culture, obsessed with productivity and curated images of perfect lives, has created a void of inner meaning. We're connected 24/7, yet feel more fragmented than ever. We are taught to run from pain, to medicate our discomfort, and to pretend that our relationships are flawless. This refusal to acknowledge our own shadows is what creates a fragile and hollow existence. It's an existence filled with fleeting connections built on the shaky foundation of ego and idealization. But the truth is, the wound you're feeling, that painful, confusing mix of love and hate, is not a sign of failure. It's a signal. It's a powerful echo of meaning in a silent world. It tells you that you are engaging in something real. You are not running from yourself. You are, in fact, beginning the true work of becoming whole. The hate you feel is the ghost of your past, the unresolved trauma, the unacknowledged self. And every time you feel it rise up against someone you love, you have a choice. You can project it, lash out, and continue the cycle of pain. Or you can pause. You can ask yourself, what part of me am I seeing in them that I refuse to see in myself? This is the moment where philosophical insight becomes a practical tool. It is the moment where you transform the wound from a source of suffering into a portal for self-understanding. This isn't about fixing your relationship. It's about a deeper kind of healing, the healing of the self.
By embracing the full spectrum of your emotions, you start to build a love that is honest, resilient, and unbreakable. You stop needing your partner to be a flawless reflection of your dreams and start appreciating them for who they are. Another flawed, messy, magnificent human being on their own difficult journey. The love that emerges from this fire is no longer a fantasy. It is a profound act of acceptance. It is a love that has seen the shadow and is not afraid. It has faced the truth, even though it hurt. It has let the ego die, and in doing so, has created space for something far more durable to grow. But this is not the end, it is only the threshold. For once the illusions have burned away and the ego has fallen silent, what remains is not merely a stronger bond with another, but the possibility of a deeper transformation. The wound has spoken, but the final question is still waiting. What rises after the death of the self?
What rises after the death of the self is not a perfect love, but a truthful one. A love stripped of fantasy, stripped of masks, stripped of the fragile armor we once mistook for strength. It is not the fairy tale we were promised. It is something more enduring. A love that breathes with imperfection, yet does not collapse beneath it. The wound you carry is not a curse. It is a compass. It points you toward the very places you fear to look, the very truths you've spent a lifetime avoiding. To follow it is to walk through fire, but on the other side of that fire, what survives is real, and the real will always outlast the dream. This is the paradox. The pain you resist is the doorway you've been searching for. The hatred you fear is the shadow of the love you crave. The wound is not the end of you. It is the place where you finally begin to see yourself without distortion, without denial, without escape. And so the truth is simple, even if it burns. The wound is not here to destroy you. It is here to awaken you. The wound is where you start.
If this moved something inside you, stay. We're building something for those who don't fake it. Subscribe, not just for the content, but for the confrontation. And if this left a wound, maybe it was meant to. Sometimes the best way to go deeper is to share the pain. Share it. Someone out there still believes true love is a fairy tale. Still thinks the quiet rage is a sign of failure. Still thinks running is a solution. This won't make that easier, but it might show why it never worked. Let it reach the ones still mistaking fantasy for strength. Let it remind them the ache of the truth is the only path to a love that is real.